So today, our second part, we are going to cover the second part of the quadratic equation. This time we are going to solve our quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. In some books, some people call it the bulldozer method. So this is the formula. From this ax squared plus bx plus c, x is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. This out of over stops here over 2a, whereby, so this is the equation you have to know, the exact equation. So long as you know it, you can solve the quadratic equations using this quadratic formula. So this b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. This here is the discriminant, what is in the brackets. If the discriminant is less than 0, then the roots that we shall get, the answers that we shall get, the nature of the roots will be imaginary. And if the discriminant is equals to 0, that means they are real roots, but they are unequal. And if the discriminant is greater than 0 and is a perfect square, that means it is real, unequal, and rational. And if the discriminant is less than 0, is greater than 0 and not a perfect square, it is real, unequal, and irrational. When you go into further studying, if the discriminant is less than 0, it will form an imaginary, what you have seen here, I, which we will see in complex numbers. So we are going to solve some of the questions using that formula. We are going to solve question 1, question 2, and question 3. They've said solve the following quadratic equations. Example 1, x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equals to 0. So what we do, we write from our equation of a straight line, our equation of a quadratic equation, which is ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. We are going to compare this and find out which ones are the values of a, which is the value of b, and which is the value of c. From this, the value before x squared is a, so our a will be this value, which is an invisible one that we cannot see. The value before b is this value before x squared, which will be now the 2. If it's a negative, you put negative 2. And our c, which is our constant, is this value here without any value, which is negative 3. So that means from this equation, x is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This over should not stop here, but it should go up to this side. So we start substituting in negative b. So it will be negative 2 plus or minus square root of b squared, which is 2 squared, minus 4 times a, our a is 1, times our c, which is negative 3, over 2 times a, which is 2 into 1. So after substituting in, we shall see here we have negative 2 plus or minus square root. 2 squared is the same as 4. This is minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. This negative and this negative will make it a positive. And 4 times 3 is 12 over 2 times 1, which is 2. So we shall remain with negative 2 plus or minus 4 plus 12 is 16. So it is square root of 16 over this 2 times 1, we got it as 2. So we remain with negative 2 plus or minus square root of 16 is a 4 over 2. So from this particular point of time, we shall consider now these signs. We shall get two answers. These signs show we can get two answers when we consider a plus or a minus. So we say either x is equals to negative 2. If we consider the plus, so we put plus 4. Let's first consider the positive, over 2, which will leave us with negative 2 plus 4, which is 2 over 2, which is 1. So that will be the first value of x. Or x is equals to negative 2. This time we are considering the negative, minus 4 over 2, which will give us negative 2 minus 4, which is negative 6 over 2. So x is negative 3. So therefore, the values of x are 1 and negative 3. Simple. So we shall try solving another equation using the same formula and we see. Let's solve example 2, which is x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals to 0. X squared minus 6x plus 5 is equals to 0. We use the same thing from ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. We start comparing a is this value before x squared, which is a 1. B is this value before x, which is a negative 6. And c is this value here, which is a 5. So we write down our equation, which is x is equals to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Make sure this over comes up to this b here. Don't stop it around here. So we start substituting in negative b. So it is negative into b, which is negative 6. It is negative b. So don't forget and just put the negative. Put the negative out first. Substituting the value of b, which is negative 6 plus or minus square root of b squared, which is negative 6 squared minus 4 into 1 into 1a, which is a 1, into our c, which is also a 5, over 2 into our a, which is a 1. So what do we remain with here? Negative, negative, it becomes a positive 6 plus or minus square root. Negative 6 squared is 36, because negative 6 times negative 6, it becomes positive, positive, which will give you a 36, minus 4 times 1, which is a 4, over 2 times 1, which is a 2. So what do we remain with? Remain with 6 plus or minus square root. 36 minus 4 gives us 32 over 2. Are we moving on? If you're not, there's something, we made a mistake. This is supposed to be 5, leaving us with 4 times 5, which is a 20. 36 minus 20, leaving us with a 16. Sorry about that mistake. So when we continue, this is 6 plus or minus 16 is square root of 16 is a 4 over a 2. So at this particular point of time, we do the exact thing that we did past in our first question. So either x is equals to 6. Let's first consider the positive, plus 4 over 2, which is 10 over 2, which is equals to 5, or x is equals to 6 minus 4 over 2. So 6 minus 4 is 2 over 2, which is equals to 1. So therefore the values of x are, the first one is 5 and the first one is 1. You know how to prove whether these answers are correct. If not, you can go and first check in the first video and check out. Just substituting this value into here, it should equate to a 0, and substituting the 1 into this value should equate in a 0, that we showed in our previous question. Let me try out example number 3. Example number 3 is negative b squared minus 2b plus 1 is b squared minus 2b plus 1 is equals to 0. We can substitute in. So for some questions, they'll just put for you solve b squared minus 2b is equals to negative 1. So at this particular point of time, you have to take this one this side and make sure it is in the form of the other equation, so that it is b squared minus 2b plus a 1 is equals to 0. Anywhere you set it, you can be able to solve it. So from our equation of ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So we are going to compare. The value before this side is the a. So our a will be a 1 our B will be a -2 and our C will be a 1. So this B, this time we shall use B instead of x, -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Since our equation now is having b, so when we substitute in here, we have negative b. Our b is -2. Don't forget and leave this a positive. Some of you forget. Plus or minus square root of -2 squared minus 4 into 1 into 1 over 2 into our a, which is a 1. So this one will leave us with a +2 plus or minus square root. What are we remaining with here? Relative 2 squared is 4. 4 times this is -4 over 2 times 1, which is a 2. So leaving you with 2 plus or minus -4 minus -4 is 0. So square root of a 0 is a 0 over 2. So 0 is nothing. So that means our b will be equal to 2 over 2, which is equals to 1. So this is a repeated root. This is a repeated root. So that is where we shall stop. You can go and try out more. You can go and try out more questions. You can go and try out more questions and see whether you write the correct thing. Thank you.